Bonsoir. Je sais que c'est la fin de la journée, je vais aller vite. On m'a demandé 30 minutes, mais je vais essayer de faire très très vite. Monsieur Gelassi, tout à l'heure, vous êtes plein parce que la salle, l'amphi, elle est à moitié vide. Moi, je suis prof, j'ai l'habitude de donner mes cours en face d'une salle vide. Et vous savez ce qu'on dit, c'est que les meilleurs, c'est ceux qui sont à la fin. Parce que c'est votre audience, en fait. Ils sont intéressés. Donc, merci d'être restés. On sait que ça a été une longue journée. Donc, moi, on m'a demandé de restituer ce qui s'est passé, parce que, je sais pas, moi, je le dis heureusement, j'ai fait partie de la première vague, en fait, qui a participé à cette première édition du Forum méditerranéen à Marseille. Je suis très, très honorée par cette invitation. Je remercie bien sûr Madame l'ambassadrice, elle n'est pas là, mais Madame l'ambassadrice, la délégation interministérielle à la Méditerranée, au ministre de l'Europe et des Affaires étrangères qui m'ont demandé de venir. Et en fait, je n'ai pas hésité une seconde, pour la simple raison que c'est la Tunisie, un pays bien sûr ami, nos confrères tunisiens, on les connaît, ils nous connaissent, on les aime, ils nous aiment bien. Et en plus, l'ambition du forum, elle est excellente parce que ça permet aux acteurs de la Méditerranée de se voir, de se parler et de se partager leurs expériences. Et troisièmement, je suis revenue parce que j'ai un très cher ami dans l'audience. Je pense que toute la Tunisie l'adore. C'est Monsieur Narman Ferri, c'est ça? C'est bon, Ferri, c'est un très bon ami, donc je suis là pour lui aussi. Voilà. Je vais faire vite, parce que l'idée, c'est pas que je vous fasse un cours à la fin de la journée. Je veux vraiment revenir en arrière et vous dire que des forums de l'IA, il y en a partout. On entend parler souvent, on a plein de spécialistes de l'IA, tout le monde est un spécialiste, etc., etc. Mais ce forum, il est très intéressant parce que vous avez vu, il y a eu des annonces, etc., qu'à la suite d'une première édition qui était censée être très petite en fait, c'était dans une petite salle, il y avait du streaming en live, mais ça a généré beaucoup d'intérêt, ça a généré beaucoup de relations et de coopération entre les différents acteurs. Donc c'est pas c'est pas anodin qu'on se retrouve à Tunis pour une deuxième édition. Et je suis très très contente et fière de voir que d'une petite salle, il y avait un nombre de personnes, bon, elle n'était pas très petite, mais elle était plus petite que l'amphi. On a créé tout un événement et je me considère comme une cofondatrice de cette édition en participation avec tous les vrais acteurs et les organisateurs. Bon, moi j'en profite en fait, je sors sur la vague. Donc voilà, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Et parce que c'est un forum qui est, bon, on est très francophone, il y a plein de francophones, mais c'est quand même un forum pour la Méditerranée, et on a des pays voisins qui ne parlent pas le français, donc je vais essayer de switcher un peu à l'anglais si ça ne vous dérange pas, juste pour être inclusif dans l'esprit du forum, comme elle a dit Madame l'ambassadrice ce matin. It was a year ago. It was in Marseille. It started with this. We met in Velodrome, that's the name, right? That's like, it's a huge, this is for the football players and the football lovers. This is like an iconic place. I took pictures to send it to my family saying, look, I'm here. I'm not a football player, I'm an AI expert, but actually, look where I am. So I want to give a special thanks to a person who is not with here today, Professor Cédric Villani, who is a big mathematician. It was under his under his patronage, his parrainage, whatever you want to say. And this reminds us that in the Mediterranean, we have great people. We have Cédric Villani, who is one of our greatest minds, who is an honor to France, to Europe, and to the Mediterranean, and of course to the world, the whole world. So actually it started there. And what we did, that we brought different actors. We know that now there are so many solutions in AI, so many people, so many startups, so many research around the world. But the idea of this forum was very important and it was very interesting. Let's bring people and startups and actors that develop solutions of AI for the Mediterranean, or develop solutions and deploy them for the Mediterranean challenges. Because we know that everything that is developed elsewhere is good. We can use it, we can leverage it to go further. But actually, our challenges are much different. We have climate change, we have periods of drought, our agricultural systems are very different according to other people, our health is very different, our energy sectors, we've heard a lot of people talking about the potential and the opportunities we have in the energy sector. So the idea was that we brought people together who are really passionate about solving problems of the Mediterranean and who has experience in solving these problems. And it started with very various thematics, similar to the ones we have today in Tunis, but less than the ones we have in Tunis. And that shows us actually that went from small thematic areas that we chose to much larger thematic areas, and I'll explain to you why. So the first sector, obviously, is health. We've seen different actors from CNRS, Telecom Sud Paris, Volta Medical, which is a startup in Marseille, but it's offering its solutions actually for cardiac electrophysiology in different places in the Mediterranean. And my dear university, UM6P, that was funded by OCP, the phosphate giant leader, and we presented different solutions, and one of the particular solutions we presented from my university is the African Genome Center. We know that the different solutions in AI for health, they don't take into account the genomics and the factors and the different characteristics of the African population. I know we are in the Mediterranean, but many of us who are the North Africans, we are part of the Mediterranean and Africa at the same time. So actually, this is the initiatives we discussed, and we show how each of us from the different parts of the Mediterranean, the North and the South, we're working really hard to develop our own solutions, our own AI solutions. We are not borrowing what happens overseas. We are taking into account all the challenges we have to solve these problems. Climate change, big problem for the Mediterranean. Big problem for Africa, but big problem for the Mediterranean. It's very interesting when we talk about how AI can solve all these problems of climate change, etc. There is one startup that was invited that is called AfriClimate AI, and they faced us with the challenge that we have in building these AI solutions. It turns out that in Africa we don't have real data about climate change. Many localities, many communities, we don't even have the data. So how can we employ or deploy all these solutions of AI that were built based on good quality data if we don't even have data? So that shows us that our challenges are very different, and only us, part of this population, the Mediterranean, the African, we can solve our solutions. So what turned to be challenges, they are turning today to become opportunities for us, opportunities for our startup, our young, our ecosystems in research, government, and other to create solutions. I'm not doing any publicity. I'm just giving them the honor for coming, presenting all these solutions and how they are trying to solve the challenges and how they perceive AI as a solution for the challenges that have been happening in our continent, in our region for very long. And we freezed. Now we're not freezing. We are finding solutions thanks to AI. Of course, agriculture. I told my man, we were chatting, and I said, where are the agriculture? And he said, you've been here the whole day. The things were happening on the other side. Agriculture is one of the sectors that is very, very important and key for who? For the Mediterranean. We are feeding the world. I know that the revolution is going to happen, but actually we are. Through different products we send to the world, the different OCP is the provider of fertilizers. Fertilizers is what's needed for any type of agriculture. And we saw a number of amazing technologies. All of these are technologies that are either in the north in France, in the north of the Mediterranean, in France, Marseille, Montpellier, or it is in the south of the Mediterranean, Lebanon, or others in Africa. Energy. We've been hearing a lot today about energy, and it turns out that energy seems to be the sector that we want to invest or want to take advantage of in the Mediterranean because we have so many suns. So what was used to be so before something that we hate the sun, we don't want to like it's too hot here, it turns out to be a mine actually that we can turn into a product and a service that can build or empower this AI revolution. And remember, AI is just one revolution. We're going to have different variants of this AI, and the AI of today is not AI of tomorrow. So we have to keep this in mind as a Mediterranean or as African or as European as well, that the solutions we are building today, we have to take into account that what we know how to do today, it's not going to be what is tomorrow. We can think about investing in infrastructure, we can have strategies of having the best solutions, but it's really changing rapidly. And I'm going to tell you why it's changing rapidly, and we have to be very careful about it. So, of course, we had everyone present there all the solutions we have in energy, how we can, energy as a resource, energy as a product, energy as a service, and they were a very nice company from Algeria, or a startup from Algeria, showing us how they provide solutions for sectors in banking and other big sectors on how to use resource-efficient energy. Of course, in Ben Guerir, in Morocco, in my university, we have invested in the biggest data center. We have invested in the biggest HPC, high-performance computing. We say that it's the biggest in Africa in terms of capability. But what is the most important? I don't see Ms. Chiang in the room, the La Banque Mondiale, but this is our power, or our unique thing about our data center is that it can be 100% powered by clean energy because we have the sun. It's too hot, yeah, very hot. But actually, what is this sun becomes a source of energy for us, and we can be considered as the green energy or doing green AI to some extent. Obviously, it's not the whole solution. Of course, we had AI demands a lot of investment. We've heard it from everyone. We've heard it in Marseille as well. We have to invest in data, platforms, we have to invest in computational infrastructure, we have to invest in talent. So it comes always about investment, investment, investment. And it seems like we are left behind a little bit in the Mediterranean or in Africa because we don't have enough of this investment. The government, they don't invest much in us. Private sector says, no, I don't do innovation. I just do my service and products. I don't really care. And it seems like everyone is left to its own destiny, trying to find how to get the investment. Luckily, we have some actors, and there is our friend Norman, Median Fund, will explain to us what are the different possibilities that we can have in investment. It's also other initiatives happening around Africa, but most of these are North African, so they mean they are from the Mediterranean as well. And of course, one of the big challenges, and we had it today as well, is the regional cooperation. We have very commonalities, we have a lot of similarities around the Mediterranean, but at the same time, we are different nations with different laws, different regulations, different policy, etc. So when we want to collaborate on something that is really considered now as sovereign, or it's defining the sovereignty of a country, actually all this regional cooperation needs to be handled with some caution. There would need to be frameworks, etc. But we had ideas of how we can move forward, and today as well, we heard from other actors how we can do it. A year later, we didn't waste time, and we came back to Tunisia, very nice weather, we're happy to be here. And this time, we went a little bit further. We didn't talk just about agriculture, energy, health. We talked about much, much, much more thematic areas. And that's very important. When this is the flashback. This is what happened a year before, and this is what's happening today. And when you look what happened before, you saw that we were very focused on looking at the solutions, who is providing what, in which country, in which part of the Mediterranean. But today, I'm very impressed actually to see that we moved this discussion towards the vision, the strategy. How can we actually invest? What is the governance? What are the model of investment? What are the model of cooperation? There was a little bit of this before, but the first edition was more around, actually, in the Mediterranean, we create our own solutions. We have an ecosystem, and we have actors that are creating their own solutions. We're not buying from the Americans, the Chinese, blah, 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 and the big ones. And today we've heard it, all of it. Again, we came back to the AI and the investment. There was a lot of emphasis on investment, and there was a lot of emphasis on how we need very big infrastructures, how we need very big data centers. And I heard Karim when he talked about the energy and how we can turn it into a way of investment by having our own data centers and having other people coming to invest in us. Of course, they will mention to health, how AI can help health. We talked a bit about climate change and how these are the sectors that maybe if we wanted to collaborate as a region and as an ecosystem, maybe this is where we have to go, because climate change is a reality in the Mediterranean and it's going to shake us. It's already shaking everything we do, but it's going to shake us more and more. And of course, how we can do sustainable agriculture, etc. But what is very important that in this today, there were big numbers talking about governance of AI, talking about how we can do the ethics of AI, how we can deal with AI and all these cultural changes that is somehow the adoption of AI is gonna change our ways of doing things. And the biggest thing that I was happy to see is AI and education. And I love what you said, Mr. Jelassi. We can have technology, we can buy it, we can, build it, but what we cannot do if we don't change the mindset of people. And I think this is where our big problem in the Mediterranean and in Africa, in particular in the south of the Mediterranean, Madame l'ambassadrice, even in the north of the Mediterranean, because everything is changing. So actually it's education. And education, we're not talking about our engineers. Our talents, we've heard it the whole day. They are great. We know that they go to the big engineering schools. We know that wherever they go to do in the world, they are seen as the best students and the best talents. That's not the problem. I'm talking about the others. And this is what someone in the audience said. Yeah, you're talking about talent, that's great. But we have a big fraction of the population that is left behind. And that's a big problem for us in our regions. Because what are we going to do, Madame l'ambassadrice, avec tous ces gens that they have 15, 20 years to work, but they don't know how to use AI. And actually AI is going to take their jobs. That's a fact. It's not anyone who say, no, AI is not going to take the jobs. AI is going to take the jobs of people who don't know how to use AI. So education, it's in the large term of education, is mindset, is a culture, is turning our spirit into a data culture or a data-driven job. We're not anymore about doing our jobs like before. And I think this is a very important. We missed this in the first edition, because of course we're not perfect, but I think the first edition was they were more academics, they were more startups, so these are the tech-native people. So this is why education is implicitly something, we need to have education. But it was great to see in this edition today that we came back to it and talked about education at a larger level. We need to educate people, not just the engineers. Do you know what? Between us, I have no worry about the young generations. They are tech, they are AI native, they know how to use it better than me and you, even me, after all these years. But actually, I'm worried about the people who have no knowledge in AI and still have to work for the 15, 20, 25 years. So this is a very important topic. And unfortunately, Mr. Jelassi, that it was at lunchtime, because among all of these topics, this is the most important thing, because we have to prepare the next generation of workers and others. Great. All of this, I saw the optimism. And you know what? I'm a professor at the end of the day. And usually they don't invite me to this forum. So I'm very grateful, actually, because you're courageous to invite me. Because professors always stand back and say, yeah, that's great, the startups and all the optimism and how we're going to change the world and all the solutions that exist. But the professor in me is working back and saying, okay, all of this is great. Now we know. We have a basic, solid foundation. We know that we have people who can create solutions and very advanced solutions for our challenges in the Mediterranean. Fine, great, move on, next step now. The next step is, we understand that we are taking it, we're starting to think about strategy, about vision. How are we going to take these startup solutions that everyone is doing in its own, how can we, or small academic research or small government initiative, how we can now take it to the next level. So we got to the second level today, which is strategy and vision. We forgot about something important. All of this has a number of challenges. a huge challenges, and I cannot end this by being just optimistic. I'm going to be a bit pessimistic a little bit, because we have to say that to go back to what we can do about it. And these challenges, we heard about them. Mostly, the discussions today turned around the technical. We talked about the data, about the infrastructure. We need more infrastructure. But this is something that I'm going to shock maybe many people. I'm not for this direction, for the simple reason that actually, and someone I think in one of the last panels said it, it's not the right direction. The right direction is not to have the biggest data centers. This is a race that we've lost already. Sorry. It's not what we need to do, is we need to find alternatives. So I am for the alternatives. We talked about the regulatory a little bit, but we didn't go into much details about it. But remember, startups, research institutions, academics, we build solutions and we need a market for it. We need people who buy these solutions. Who are the people who buy these solutions? It's the big corporates, yeah? Or maybe the government agencies. So before we sell them the solutions, they need themselves to solve the big challenge they have, which is business and organizational. They have big problems. And regardless of what we say about AI and its opportunities, there is a recent study or report by MIT that shows that 95% of initiative of AI in corporates and government agencies fail. Why? It's not because the solution is not good. When we're doing it in the startup, it's great. But actually, it's because there is a business and organizational challenge for this big corporate. And I think Rim Tahrawi in the panel just before mentioned a little bit this when she talked about, yeah, when we have the solution, but when we want to put them in a full pipeline of the enterprise system, it becomes much more complex, actually. And we forgot something very important. There are some mentions to this, but there is the emerging trends in AI. And I'll get back very quickly to it, just to summarize this. So the technical, we know what is it. Data, we hear about it. Unfortunately, in many places in the Mediterranean, in particular the public administration, I'm sorry for the public administration representative, we don't have the data we need. We're still lagging behind in the data. So how am I going to use that solution that is coming from a startup or is coming from an academic institution if I don't have even the foundation of the data? Of course, there are solutions, but this is a serious problem. So the change of the administration, the public administration is very important, and the education of the public administration servers is very, very important. So, of course, there are all the other things around the algorithmic, around the energy consumption by data centers, etc. And there are the novel direction of using infrastructure, which I think this is our opportunity as the Mediterranean, is not to focus on the data centers. Have some of them, it's great, that can help us maybe, as La Banque Mondiale, Ms. Cheng said, maybe a hub of a data center that can be used by the Mediterranean. But actually there is a much better solution that we can focus and invest on, is all these new computing infrastructures, in particular the edge. And the edge is something that it's going to be more and more used, and this is because we don't need the cloud, we don't need the big data centers, etc. So these are the alternatives that we need to be considering, in particular with the advent of all IoT, Internet of Things, objects, because we're going to be connected more and more. Ethical and regulatory, of course, we talked about regulations, we talked about the efforts that are done by different organizations, associations to put in place regulation. But every time people ask me this very tricky question when they hear me talking enthusiastically about AI, and they say, but you're not afraid that it's going to do, did you see the movie Terminator and all of these things? So people have this fear, and they say, why our countries, why our ministers, why our governments, they don't have a regulatory and compliance, really serious act and serious policy there. And I tend to tell them that this is what you're probably saying, Mr. Jelassi, the problem that when we look at the United States and China and we see where they went into their innovation, we're like, if we regulate, we don't innovate. So I think we still need these regulations, but we need to be a bit more clever around it. One of the biggest problems for our region, and for our region, if we relate it to the population that is not well educated, like everywhere, in particular in the south and in the rural regions, is what we call the deep fakes. And the deep fakes is this new generation of using the machine and the AI technologies to spread misinformation, fear, and others. And you may be saying, but why are you talking about this? Because actually this is a serious problem that we're going to be facing in our populations, because we still have population that doesn't understand this, and we need to start thinking about how to secure the use of AI technologies, etc., and give them that awareness about what are the revers du décor. The standardization, I think we heard it, we have to mutualize and standardize. The business is the big problem, actually. And all of these challenges that I'm giving you is because I want to tell you that we have the opportunities, actually, to solve them in our way and have solutions for them. So the business, obviously, we talked about the adoption, we talked about the return on investment. We see it. Even if everyone is enthusiastic about AI, the big corporates, when it comes to adoption and when it comes to taking solutions, they think twice or three times, and they take time before they can really adopt the solutions. Of course, what stops them as well is the infrastructure costs, and something that was mentioned is the talent war. We talked a lot about how this talent leave, how our talent that are very good. There is a big war actually between the different countries and nations around the world to keep the talent or to hire the talent. But this is not a problem, because imagine if we really educate every single part of the population. The problem of the talent is not anymore a problem, because they can go. I think we should let people go. We should let them go and learn from somewhere else. But we can always hope that they're going to come and contribute to the Mediterranean in a way or another. And I think I am a great example of this. Trained in France all my life, in higher education, went to the UK, went to the US, to Canada, went back to my country, to my third country, Australia, and then where am I today? In the Mediterranean, in Morocco, in Africa. I collaborate a lot, and I came back collaborating a lot with the French system, which means that it wasn't a big loss at the end of the day. Organizational is a big problem for corporates, and that's where we are. It's not about having a solution of AI, actually. It's not about startups coming up with the great AI solutions. It's actually about how we can transform our corporates and our organizations and our public administration into a data culture. It's not about adopting a solution, it's about thinking about how we transform the public administration or the business into a data-driven organization. Of course, the maturity of AI technologies, they are not there. We still have a lot of problems. We still don't understand so many things that are happening. And the biggest problem for all corporations as well is knowledge management. So these are the challenges that are not just in the Mediterranean. They are challenges that are everywhere. But why in the Mediterranean we shouldn't see them as challenges? Because, you know, when you come to the race late, you've learned from all the mistakes of the others. So now what we can do actually is leverage all the mistakes of the others. Instead of copying their models and copying their algorithms, is understand what didn't work and leverage our capabilities and our design thinking to provide the solution to these challenges. And I think we have the capability and we have the capacity in the Mediterranean region, because at the end of the day, AI has a number of pillars. Yes, we need infrastructure. Yes, we need algorithms. But there is only one ingredient to the success of AI. And what is it? Talents. DeepSeek showed us that why the Americans and OpenAI, by the way, OpenAI, just to say what they did, it's not their solution, it's a solution that comes from research. So what they did is just some engineering, they had funding, and they could take research into a product. So just to let you know. So it comes from the talent at the end, at the beginning. So one is the talent. Why? For very long, OpenAI told us we cannot do any AI if we don't have huge data centers, huge capacity of computation, GPUs, big data. Otherwise, nobody can provide any solution. It turns out that DeepSeek came from around and said hello with much less infrastructure, with much less computational power. I did something that is as good as you've been doing for years. What's the message there? Ingenuity. It's wanting to create our sovereign and our own solutions and really have the talents think differently. Find alternative. This is the key for the Mediterranean, the Minister. And finally, I wanna just add something that we didn't talk a lot about in this in this edition is, maybe you hear about all this quantum computing and quantum AI, and people tell me when I talk to them that quantum is science fiction. It's not science fiction. It's obviously not a science fiction. So what does that mean? That everything we are thinking of today as a solution might be disrupted tomorrow by the advent of this technology. So because we are clever and we understood from the others, we're going to have our strategy and our solutions designed, taking into account the possibility that quantum is going to become a reality as soon as possible. That we need to have solutions now that are collaborative between human and interactions. And finally, I want to just say, this is the second edition. I guess there is a third edition. So the final success factors for AI beyond 2025, if we want to really be serious about building an AI capability in the Mediterranean, is going to be education and training, but really education and training the population. There are a lot of programs around teaching AI, technical AI by everyone, but what we don't have is education by métier, because these jobs are going to disappear, are going to change. So just to give you, I think just a minute, just to give you one example, we launched a program called AI for All in Mining. 10,000 collaborators at OCP are going through training for AI. Collaborators mean operators, technicians, mean car drivers, mean truck drivers. Very important, because their job is at risk. So these are the programs we need, par métier. The second one, if we wanted really a key success, we need collaborative platforms. But collaborative platforms is not about really we share our ideas, etc., but really share the expertise of the different startups, the different ecosystem in the Mediterranean, that we don't reinvent the wheels. We can really focus on how we can, what someone has done, how we can improve it or how we can benefit from it and go faster, like leapfrog these solutions. We don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. The most important, don't forget, the big businesses, the big giant Americans, they don't have time for sector-specific, specialized solutions. They are trying to service the mass. So we have an opportunity to go into sectors customized solutions. And if you listen to the edition today, if you listen to what I said about the edition of Marseille, the sectors in the Mediterranean are very clear. Agriculture, energy, health. Thank you very much.